Lawyers, did you ever win your case so much that the opposing lawyer was fired from his job? I was so nervous I remember it to this day. After I finished my studies and managed to get my long-wanted job as a lawyer, I have failed miserably to secure a win for my first 2 cases. All the opposing lawyers were ruthless. After that I even seriously considered a career change, but my mentor advised me against it, saying that I have to demand more from myself. Pretty much anything that he said sounded motivational. He said they are ruthless, the other lawyers he meant, and you have to get used to that. You cannot fight a wolf if you don't show your fangs too. Be like them to beat them. Again, everything seemed like a bunch of nonsense, but I gave it a go. This time I had done additional research, came up with strategies, and asked around people who know people that know stuff that other people don't like the usual people knowing about, turning every rock under the sun to secure my win over this case. It took sacrifice, just like any other worthwhile thing requires, but now I'm ready. So, this was only my 3rd time in court, and this time I was representing a client who faced assault charges. It was quite ironic, because my client was the one with a broken nose. The case seemed odd at first, but I had an ace up my sleeve to make sure that this time I win this one. The person of accusing him of assault claimed that he acted in self-defense after he was punched outside of a bar. When I have asked why he doesn't have any marks, he claimed that he heals fast. I couldn't believe how easy people can get away with stuff. Anyway, he did have a lot of witnesses who were in favor of him and confirmed the events that he got hit by my client as he got out of the bar. Things were not looking good, and I could see my client getting more and more frustrated, to the point he was almost crying. Get it together, man. You only paid me to be your lawyer, not your counselor. Not to worry, I told him. I'm going to make all of this go away. Let them have their way now. After all those witnesses who were saying the same thing as a rehearsed poetry and the lack of evidence against my client, the judge said, well, there seems to be a certain level of accusation against your client. How do you respond? I stand up, and I look over at the opposing lawyer, subtly smiling knowing that I'm about to destroy him. Then I proceeded saying, Your Honor, I'm in no position to critique your judgment, but please take a closer look at the whole situation. My client's face is busted. There is no concrete evidence other than the witness statements who all came from family members, hence implying a certain level of bias. Even so, even if the case would be different, my client was the one who actually faced an assault disguised under alleged self-defense. Your Honor, let me make you aware of some facts on the matter. My client did not commit any form of assault. My client was actually the one who got attacked by a former professional boxer who lost his license because he got into a street fight. I have paused, and the jury all gasped, just as I pictured the whole scene. Then I continued to put the nail to the coffin. It happened many years ago, but I was able to find the information into a news article that I found, lost in the archives. You can clearly see here his picture, name, and description of the events. Your Honor, I have nothing further to add. The opposing lawyer remained shocked. Then the judge asked him, Mr. Dave, were you aware of any of this? The lawyer stuttered, not giving a clear answer. Mr. Dave, I must remind you that you are under oath. The lawyer dropped his head down and said, Yes, Your Honor, I was aware. The judge was getting furious now. So, if you were aware of it, why was it necessary for your opponent to come forward, unveiling this mystery? We are men of truth in our profession. You should be an example. I'm suspending you indefinitely for attending court. I will consult with some colleagues and we will all reach a decision regarding the outcome of your license. The case is dismissed. That went even better than expected, because I didn't know that he was aware of his client's background. I managed to finally break the ice and win my big case big time, while the opposing lawyer lost everything. In my job there is always a question of morality. If you are good enough, the bad guys usually get away. You have to be okay with that, otherwise all the hefty paychecks will be spent with a heavy conscience, which would be way less fun. However, after a while it is not about the money anymore, or about being right or wrong. It's just a matter of winning. Now, you don't have to agree with my principles, as I know that they may not sound perfect, but this was me, and I was owning it. If all the pieces fall into place, somewhere around 30 or So you hit a nice stride and you feel unstoppable. Things went quite well for me, probably even better than my parents had expected. So, when I was 31, I opened my own law firm, after getting a reputation as one of the best lawyers in my city. Hardly ever one of my clients had any issues if I'd represent them in court. My father was a lawyer and my grandmother were a judge. This ran in my blood. I was really close to losing it all when one of my employees tried to sabotage my whole case and reputation because he fell in love with someone from the prosecution side. So he kept feeding her insider information about the case and our firm. You never sleep with the enemy. Anyway, with all my legal experience I was never able to prove it in court, so he got to keep his license at least. He was clever, and he was after me. After the incident however, the person in question disappeared, because he knew that problems can also be solved outside of court. So, maybe he got scared, and got out of town. The irony of it all is that today I will face this man in court, but I'm not accusing him of anything this time. This time, we both represent our clients and we must act with integrity and professionalism. It turns out he opened a law firm as well and now he expanded and reached to my doorstep. I had to show this man his way back home. I managed to easily win the case against him, and then he disappeared for a few weeks. A couple of months down the line he appeared again however, going against me again in a similar fashion like before. This was getting suspicious. This case was more difficult to overcome. It seemed like he would lay the scene, and then wait for the perfect ambush. I didn't believe that he had any honest intention of representing his client and he just wanted the reputation that he got wins over to help him get clients. The whole situation sounded ridiculous at first, but I had done my research and found a few interesting things that suggested this whole thing might be designed just to mess with me. Then again, I couldn't prove it because it would have been too outrageous to say that another lawyer conspires against one another. But so, it happens that the following month does the same thing. This time I will present my case so flawlessly that any hope of him ever beating me will shatter. On the day of the trial I proceed presenting my case and coming up with all the clever counter arguments. His case was really weak and the judge noticed that even saying at some point to him, "Are you sure want to do this?" That made me laugh. The whole thing seemed desperate. I was only feeling sorry for his poor client that he had to drag along just to get back at me. That was so selfish and unethical. Nevertheless, if this is what he wanted, I will play along. I continued grinding him and dominating the whole case. I could sense he started to lose his patience and to get antsy. He then rambled for minutes, clinging to the last hope that he might break through with this, until the judge finally stopped him, because it was turning into a waste of time. The judge then questioned his rationale and past performance. His client was also not happy about the whole situation. He picked the wrong law firm. The word got around quick that he lost several cases in a row and that he was poorly representing his clients. It was no surprise that his law firm collapsed shortly after that. Before skills there is reputation. Now, no one will hire this guy anytime soon, especially not in my city. I hope he will never come back. Every once in a while, you get those cases that you just know you are going to win. I was in court, and I was facing another lawyer who either didn't have a very good day, or he paid someone to pass his exams in law school. Either way, she didn't stand a chance against me. She had a certain style of asking weird and random questions, thinking that it would catch witnesses off guard and get something from them. You see, this is a common practice. Whenever a lawyer does not have much evidence to go for, she will rely on something else. The problem was that her questions did not got her anywhere, and my case was way stronger and backed up with evidence. So, evidently the decision went into my favor. My client politely thanked me and told me that he will recommend me to anyone in the future. As I was making my way out of the court, I could see the lawyer that I had just faced together with her client. Her client didn't look very happy to say the least, and kept saying that you were absolutely destroyed in there. I've thought you are the best. I don't want to be represented by you anymore. You are fired. I swiftly walked over in the heat of it all and handed in my card, saying call me next time and I will ensure you better results. I smiled and walked away. The man deserved the right to have a better lawyer. I never wanted for my actions to lead to negative consequences. I was only doing my job, but it turns out that I did it so well that the other person got fired in return. This was never what I intended, but I had to give my best. We were two lawyers that just started, fresh out of the university, full of hope and ambition which was waiting to be crushed by harsh realities. We were working at different law firms in the same city and we often met around the courthouse when we were around dealing with our cases. However, this time was different. This time we were facing each other. We both expected this in a way and even joked about it once, but we never thought it would come under such circumstances. It was getting closer to the end of the financial year and all law firms were sorting out their balance sheet and evaluating the performance of their employees. As it turned out, I had a decent year and I needed to get just one more win to achieve my bonus, which I needed to purchase the house my wife and I wanted for our kids. My colleague/opponent on the other hand had issues with his performance from what I heard before the case. I knew a couple of guys down there where he was working, and the word was that if he messes up another case he is gone. The pressure was all on him. The whole situation was unfortunate, but if he truly is a professional, he will get on with it and do our best as lawyers and see what happens. I expected that he will understand that. We obviously haven't talked before the trial. He showed up late, all sweating with his tie messed up. He was clearly nervous, and I felt for him for a brief moment. Then I focused again on the game plan. I was representing a client that was allegedly defrauded, and the bank did not refund her money, so now it's going against the suspect. I knew the case in and out, and I have talked with experts in the field. They have confirmed this was a more sophisticated scam which I planned to unveil throughout the trial. As nervous as my opposing lawyer seemed at first, he quickly recovered and made some compelling arguments that caught the judge's interest. Regardless, this wasn't enough. As I was going through my presentation, exposing all the mechanisms of the scam, I could see the defendant's face surprised. I knew that he knew I'm onto him, and now my opponent was getting nervous again too. I had ended my presentation confidently, and then after a long pause, the judge gave the decision in my favor and ordered that my client will be given all her money back. Out of excitement, my client jumps out of the chair and kisses me on the cheek. She was a 60-year-old lady that lost her savings, but now recovered everything. Bless her. On the not so bright side, my opponent and colleague ended up getting fired from that law firm. I haven't seen him since he stormed out of court after that trial. I heard years later that he moved to Indonesia to start writing because it was his passion all along. Life is funny. Maybe the bad things that happen to us are necessary to help us find the good ones. Nevertheless, I got the bonus and the new house is perfect, so I'm happy. In a way, I hope he is too.